What's going on, YouTube? My name is GinJTCG, or Chris, and today I'm back with just kind of an update video about Baltimore Regionals, what's going on with the channel. This one's going to be, honestly, way more like low-key, relaxed, might even put it up as the Battle VIPs podcast episode, I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, you guys will know when you clicked on this at this point, because it's already up. But for now, it's kind of just going to be me yapping for a bit. I have no idea how long this is going to be. There's a bit of stuff I wanted to talk about, so I'm excited to just get into everything. And go over Baltimore, go over how much fun the trip was. If you haven't seen the last episode of the Battle VIPs podcast, I definitely recommend it. It was all of not only the group I went to Baltimore Regionals with, but with the exception of like 3 people, it was like the biggest components of my support system just as a person, especially as a TCG player. Not only is it the group I play with all the time and test with, but it is just some of the most important people in my actual life. So if you wanted to meet some of them, listen to them, the decks they played, the great times they had, some of the highlights of their matches of the day, in their matches, definitely go check out that last episode. Show the Battle VIPs podcast some love, because it is a ton of fun to make. And honestly, yeah, this might go up. I did mention in that podcast, however, that I would be showing my list and just going over an in-depth review. So that's kind of what I've got here. I'll go over this book in a second, and everything in it. And just in case I glance over, I don't have my headset on. Normally I listen to music in the background while I record videos, because it just helps kind of bring my anxiety down while I'm recording myself, because it's still a weird thing for me to get over. But Happy has walked into my room and is kind of just laying down next to me. And if you don't know about my cat Happy, she's blind. So I was like, you know what? If she's hanging, I'll take off my headset, so if she starts meowing and coming up, I'll just pick her up, show her on camera. But I also like just talking to her and knowing she's hearing my voice and everything, because it kind of is how we build our biggest bond and all that. So anyways, getting into the list, super excited to show you guys. I have been cooking this up for literally the longest time. I mean, this deck is absolutely insane. I think it was an amazing meta call. If you can't tell from on screen, it's an Arceus deck. Surprise, I played an Arceus deck to regionals. If you don't know, this is the 4th regional I've been to. I've played 2 Arceus decks at 2 out of the 3 I went to prior. Well, I figured I might as well make that 3 out of 4. And I brought another Arceus pile. The one card that's covered, I mean, I'll turn off my, what is it, the source of my face cam for a second. It's just Pokegear, nothing insane there. And I figured this camera spot was kind of just the best I could do for this type of video. The deck list will be in the description down below if you want to give this deck list a try. These are pretty much the exact card, almost the exact same arts I played too. Almost. Obviously, I don't have 3 All-Star Ionos. That's insane. I actually do have 1. I played with 1. And I don't have a gold Pokegear. I have a league stamp type Pokegear. But yeah, no, this is the exact 60 I played. And the 1 card covered is Pokegear. So I figured I'd prove it by getting rid of my face cam for a second there. So just about the list, how it works. It's insane. It's a pile. It was an amazing meta call. I just hit some rough matchups, and I'll get into all 9 here, because this whole video is just going to be me talking about how I did. And then at the end, I've got some big channel updates. But yeah, so essentially how the deck works, it's an Arceus deck that wants to get rid of Arceus as soon as possible. So, you play Arceus V-Star, and then the meta, at the time of Baltimore Regionals, obviously pre-Stellar Crown, was dominated by turbo decks that got shut down by Noivern, and Cornerstone Ogerpon would shut down all ability decks, which is essentially Regidrago V-Star, Charizard EX. So between those 2 cards, you were kind of able to just roll over your opponent and be like, hey, here's my win con. You can't attack me for the entire game. How are you going to cope? Safe to say, I did not hit the matchups I wanted to. So I did not make day 2. My overall record was 4-5, which isn't great, but I mean, I was happy with what happened. And 4-5, I'm going to put an asterisk next to that, which I'll explain in a second. Or actually about halfway through, because this is around the midpoint where I was officially knocked out of contention. But yeah, I mean, it was awesome meta call. There was a quad Ogerpon Noivern deck that did make top 8. I'm 90% certain. It was one of the top. It was definitely top 16 or something like that. But yeah, this was a phenomenal meta call. I really liked Arceus in this deck because I think it really helped my Lugia matchup a whole lot. It helped Lugia, helped Gardevoir, helped Dragapult an insane amount. because decks like that really don't get shut down. Lugia, specifically the Chinchino build, obviously the build with like Wordier and Extra Luminion, they had like a hands to get around Ogerpon, but for the most part they had a bunch of Pokemon with ability as well. Arceus specifically helped with like the 50-50 matchups, because you could always just fall back on Arceus. But essentially how the deck works, or this version of it, because it was very different than the one that made top 8, is you have so many scoop up type cards. So what I would try to do, go first, typical Arceus deck, and try to gather what my opponent's playing based off their lead Pokemon, which I've spent a lot of time studying all of the Pokemon in different decks, so leading different Pokemon kind of helps narrow things down, even down to something like Rotom or Pheasantipity. Like, alright, I'm kind of narrowed down between these, like, maybe even 5 decks is better than, like, 100, you know what I mean? So I kind of know, oh, do I need Noibat down, do I need Ogerpon down? Like, how am I going to lock out my opponent? Then essentially what I would do is try to set up, if it's Noibat, just get one Noivern in play, period. If it's Cornerstone Ogerpon, I'm going to try to get both of them down as soon as possible, and just force that Canceling Cologne that was in most decks as early as possible. Starbirth was huge, because Starbirth allowed me to usually Starbirth for Scoop Up Cyclone or Professor's Turo to get rid of Arceus and enforce the lock play, but also get either the Noivern EX, a Mist Energy, Double Turbo Energy. Maybe I needed the Fighting Energy for Ogerpon. I think that happened once, so I had to Starbirth just for Fighting Energy, but it was cool. Or, you know, maybe like Boss's Orders or something, because I had Scoop Up Cyclone in hand and I wanted to just get rid of the one Dusclops. There was actually once against Charizard where I played like 2 copies of Lost City for this reason exactly. With the Charizard matchup, it's kind of hard because they got Canceling Cologne and they could go double, if everything works out perfectly, they actually could go double Dusknoir in one turn. So if I was able to boss Lost City a Duskull and just leave them with one Dusknoir line in play, like, because they play a 2-1-1, if I was able to kind of force out one Duskull for the rest of the match, it more or less just guarantees my win. So that was kind of why I played double Lost City. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty much just a lock deck. I think the card of the tournament, I made it the card for the Who's That Pokemon in Battle VIPs podcast. Definitely go check it out for that. It was Radiant Jirachi. That card was insane. It was easily the MVP of the whole tournament. If you don't know what it does, Astral Misfortune, flip 2 coins. If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is knocked out. Awesome attack. I actually used it. I counted here. I used it I used it a lot more than 3 times. I got 3 KOs with Radiant Jirachi at the regional. 2 of them were in one match, which I'll explain. But yeah, no, it was awesome. The ability is what's even more cracked, though. So let's say I'm up against Raging Bolt, Turbo deck, right? I've got Noibat, Arceus, and Radiant Jirachi in play. Typically, they will chase down Noibat with Pokemon Catchers, Prime Catchers, Boss's Orders. Like, that Noibat is not living if I can't scoop up other things, which makes sense. What was super nice about having Radiant Jirachi in play, honestly, let's just say I had Radiant Jirachi and Noibat in play. You know what I mean? Or some variant of that where they KO'd like Noibat, or I Ultra Ball Noibat in the discard pile, and then they had to KO Jirachi. Like, it happened. You know what I mean? I'll do, like, a practice game on Limitless or something. I'll just load up in the middle to kind of show it off. But essentially what I'm getting at is Entrusted Wishes, the ability. You're able to search for 3 cards from your deck, just put them in hand, and then promote another active Pokemon. So what I would do is usually just search for Thornton, Double Turbo Energy, and then Noivern EX. So it's like, oh, you KO'd Noibat. Oh no, like, now you KO my Jirachi, and then I Ogerpon. I'll put down Ogerpon. They're not worried about it. It's like, oh, it's a Raging Bolt deck. I don't care if your Ogerpon is in play, so they won't chase it down. And I kind of just force that Jirachi KO to get me Thornton and whatever I need to play the game. That was a really bad way to explain it. Huh. Yeah, no, it worked more times. Actually, the ability over the course of the entire tournament, I wrote this down as well in my notes after the end of the best of 3s, I used the ability 7 times out of 9 overall games, which I feel like is a very, very impressive number. And that's 7 times that they actually killed Jirachi. There was like 2 or 3 games. One of them was against Lugia, where like I left Jirachi in the active to set up. My opponent could not find any Gus, and he just passed 3 times in a row because he's like, look, you're not setting up super fast. I don't want to give you 3 cards to set up right now. I'm just going to pass, and I just kept rolling Astral Misfortune. Sadly, it was against Lugia. One of the heads was that match, and he had Mist Energy in play, but it didn't matter, but I wanted to roll the dice. So it was like a KO, if you will. But yeah, like, he just wouldn't get rid of Jirachi, so it just let me, like, set up, bought me some time. That was a really poor way to explain how the ability, like, worked, because that scenario made no sense. Like, oh, why wouldn't they just Gus around Jirachi? trust me, it worked so well. Like, there's so many times Jirachi just had to be, they just didn't have Gust, and they wanted to swing, so they KO Jirachi, and that would allow me, once was against Charizard, you know, I just got that Thornton double turbo energy, Jirachi already had fighting energy, or not Jirachi, excuse me, my benched, like, Noibat or whatever it was, I think I had an extra Arceus at the time, had an extra fighting energy on it, so I was able to take, like, Thornton, Handheld Fan, and the double turbo energy, and just start rolling with Ogerpon, you know, like, it was a very great combo, loved the Pokemon, wouldn't have changed the list at all, honestly. Even Energy Lotto and Pokegear were amazing. I mean, sometimes, yeah, I whiffed the supporter, I didn't get the energy I wanted, but I liked having Energy Lotto over a 15th energy, just because it allowed, it was like my flex energy. It's like, okay, this scenario I want a fighting energy, well, now this Energy Lotto most likely setting a fighting energy, whereas sometimes it's like, man, I don't want a 4th copy of Mist, but I really want that other double turbo that I didn't draw into. Well, Energy Lotto helped me search it out a bunch of times. So, like, just overall, like, Energy Lotto was a super slept on card, I feel like, for Arceus decks, right? You know, at Baltimore Regionals, it just really helped me find the specific energy card I wanted without increasing that count. Because it's like, oh, just put another fighting energy. I mean, I already played Max Double Turbo, or put another Mist energy. Like, that's awesome, but sometimes I don't want that energy. Sometimes if I have 4 Mist energy in the deck instead of Energy Lotto, it's like, oh man, I really need that fighting energy. Oh man, I really need that double turbo. Well, Energy Lotto was kind of that, like, get out of jail free, hey, this is your last chance to get that card you really wanted, no matter what the matchup was, and it was awesome. Something I haven't seen at all in Arceus decks was Capturing Aroma. Capturing Aroma worked wonders for me. I mean, essentially, like, because it's a donk type format, you know, it was a very aggressive turbo based format. There was a lot of donks going around. Capturing Aroma was like, hey, let's say you start with Arceus V, Ultra Ball, and like nothing else. You're sitting there normally like, oh man, I have to Ultra Ball for a basic Pokemon, but then I have no way to evolve next turn, I'm cooked. Well, with 3 Capturing Aromas, you just play one of them, and it's like, okay, let's say I got heads and I had to search for an evolution. I could take Arceus V-Star, that's great, but also now I could play Ultra Ball and get that second basic Pokemon to prevent the donk KO and keep me in the game, and that happened a lot. I probably should have counted how many times that happened, but like 3 of Capturing Aroma saved my behind so much. Like, it was a very underrated card. And I'm sure to understand how Noivern works against Raging Bull, Roaring Moon, because he got Mist Energy to stop both attacks, Ancient Box, which I sadly didn't run into, you know, Quad Thorns, like, Noivern's, like, soloed half the meta. What is more tricky to figure out was the Ogerpon. Now, because you're probably thinking, like, okay, Charizard plays Cologne, I mentioned how Lost City can deal with the Dusknoir, Charizard makes sense, I could take Charizard. I feel like a lot of people, when I explain this deck to them, they're like, how do you deal with Regidrago? Like, Regidrago's got to be a nightmare to deal with, because they could use Regidrago V, which doesn't have an ability in 2 shots Ogerpon. They can use Mew EX, and yeah, Regidrago wasn't a fun matchup. Honestly, that one was a little more 50-50. Overall, I did pretty decent into it. Let's see, I'm 1-1. I went 1-1 against Regidrago. I lost 1 overall match. I won 1 overall match. That being said, in terms of the individual match record, the one game was just a best of 1 because it took so long, and the other game was I won 2 straight. So overall, I was 2-1 against Drago in terms of individual matches. But basically, what you rely on at that point is Scoop Up Cyclone, Penny, and Turo, because both Regidrago V and Mew EX do not one-shot Ogerpon. So you're essentially allowed to just full heal it with any of those cards, and if you play Power Glass and Handheld Fan, you're able to set up extra energy passively, as well as move the very finite amount of energy around. So in the match where I won both games, like, my opponent was like, okay, you know what, Canceling Clone might be worth it here, like, let me rip Canceling Clone, just one-shot Ogerpon with, they had the Giratina V-Star to one-shot my Ogerpon, and I was like, oh, that's fine, you know, now that attack is done. It's out of the way. You don't have another Canceling Cologne. You lost owned a couple energy. That's fine. Because now that's another, 1, attacker that's stuck, and 2, like, you had to use Legacy Star to get that playoff, which just put so many extra cards in discard and really kind of made you spread your resources thin. Like, I think because of that, my opponent had to get rid of an extra energy switch, which they really could have used for, like, Mew EX in the late game. I mean, that being said, I think it was that game I still had, like, Scoop Up Cyclone in hand. I didn't even need to use it because I was chilling so much, but you know what I mean? it created some amazing win cons. And it was specifically against Drago where Radiant Jirachi was the most cracked card, because there's no way they're gusting Jirachi. So it's able to sit there. If my Ogerpon was fully set up, I could just put energy on it. And it's like, okay, cool. You used Regidrago to successfully KO one Cornerstone Ogerpon. Not only is here's the second one in the active spot, but I'm actually just going to play Thorin. So that Radiant Jirachi, you were wondering why it's in my deck, well, now it became Ogerpon again. So that's kind of how I dealt with Drago. And the deck just worked. I mean, look, honestly, I'm gonna gamble my life away right now. I'm actually just gonna go here. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna copy his text. I'm actually just gonna go to, where is it, like the tabletop? Can we just go back to the main? All right, whatever, it's fine. We're just gonna go to the this is a mess. We're gonna go to the main database. I'm just gonna do a game real quick. Go to the tabletop simulator. We're just gonna throw my list in here, import new game, and I'm just gonna play like a couple times. Like look at this hand. This is insane. You know what I mean? Like lead Arceus. We're gonna draw one off the top for a turn. We'll play Nest Ball. What do we want to take here? I just want to show off kind of how the deck works. Let's just take Noibat. I mean, obviously, if this is Regidrago or Charizard, you just stick in Ogerpon and just start setting up energy on Ogerpon. Awesome. So let's just bench Noibat, shuffle it, play Jirachi. Honestly, hand like this, we'll just say we'd attach to Jirachi. Don't think it really matters too much. Perfect. Let's say we're playing, I forgot to hit turn, whatever, it doesn't matter. Let's say we're playing against Raging Bolt. You know, that's like the most, I think, aggressive, most consistent deck. If in this scenario they KO'd my Arceus, I just go Arven. I'm gonna take Ultra Ball. I'm gonna stick in Noibat. If they loop it, I mean, I'd probably figure it out after that point. What did I draw? I don't remember if I drew Penny. I don't think I did. Let's just draw one. Perfect. We got Iono. You know what I mean? Like if they KO Arceus here, I feel like we'd be in a worse spot, but I feel like most Raging Bolt players are like, hey, that's a Noibat, that can't hang. Like I'm gonna chase down that Noibat. They'd probably go after Noibat, but then after that, I can Arven for like Ultra Ball and get going. I can use Starbirth, and I could Starbirth for pretty much just Noivern EX and Ultra Ball again. Oh, Happy's waking up. Hey, don't scratch my floor. Oh, hold up, 1 second. She's scratching my carpet. Hey, sweet. No, we don't scratch carpets. Okay. I'm back. my like room is like, it's got the carpet on it, so every now and then she just starts scratching it for no reason. Don't want her to rip it up. But yeah, like off that hand, you can kind of see how this deck cooks. I mean, there's just so many, and this was literally just the first game, you know what I mean? And it's still a very elite hand. So that's why I was so confident in this deck. Here we go, back to the list. So yeah, no, I'm hoping after that y'all pick up my vibe. If you want me to make another video on it, I don't know how it does in the Starter Crown, just let me know. So anyways, let me just get into, it's been actually 17 minutes, oh my gosh, let me get into the deck list. So this book I keep, this is a very special book to me. If you ever meet me at a regionals, by all means, totally ask to see it. If you're watching this video, I'd love to show it off, whatever. Nothing crazy in it, but I got it at Hartford Regionals in 2023, which was my first regional, and in it, since then, because I got it after the regionals on Sunday, I keep a record of every regional, how I've done out of the 4 I've been to. So like this is Pittsburgh right here, this is Charlotte right here, and then we got Baltimore right here. So this is how I know all my matches. And the reason I'm not pulling it up on like Arcanine or something is because I don't know if if any of my opponents are watching this and they're not comfortable with me like putting their name on a YouTube video. Like I want to respect their privacy, so I'm just going to talk about the deck they played. I'm not going to use any names at all. But if you are one of my opponents and you are watching this, hello, please let me know in the comments down below, and I would love to just shout you out if you wanted to, because all of my opponents were the nicest people in the world. I mean, I had a blast playing. So let me get into like how I did. Match number 1, I played against Charizard, and Charizard was the best deck I wanted to see. And homie did not play Cologne, which felt even better, so I was feeling really free. I won the first match. Second match I lost, very close, got hit with the double Dusknoir, not much I could do. Third match I prized both my Ogerpon. Like I was like, well, I wish one of those Aromas was a heavy ball. Like I didn't know what to do. I tried to just play as an Arceus deck and hopefully get one out of the prizes, but at that point it was far too late. It didn't go well. It was a rough start luck-wise in that match. There was really not much I could do going forward from there. Prizing 2 Ogerpon really hurt, especially when I didn't play heavy ball. I tried my best, just didn't work out. Match number 2 was against Lugia with Chinchino. It was a 3-3 Chinchino build of Lugia, and I actually went win-win against it. I, for the life of me, don't know how. It wasn't even like my opponent bricked. Like, it wasn't even like, oh, Lugia bricked. Lugia set up What happened was a homie passed 3 times and I had Jirachi in the active, so I was able to set up. And what ended up being the deal breaker was twice in a row I was able to pretty much run him out of energy, because he had to expend so many energy to just one-shot Arceus V-Star. There was one time each game where he wasn't able to one-shot, so I was able to scoop up Cyclone and Turo my Arceus up and full heal it. And just having my opponent go through essentially 4 Arceus V-Stars plus a Jirachi was just too much energy. And between like the researches that got rid of 1 or 2 energy plus a retreat from Lugia here or there to one-shot with Chinchino, like there was just too many energy and discard, and my opponent wasn't able to just keep that constant pressure. Handheld Fan also clutched up with an energy or 2, I believe, both games, by just putting an extra energy on Archeops. Just really did not help any. So, Handheld Fan really kind of pulled its weight in that match, so I did manage to go win-win against Lugia Chinchino, and somehow win loss against Charizard. So I feel like, you know what, ideally, if I redid both those matches, I probably would have still went 1-1, just in reverse order. So that took me into match number 3, where I was up against Regidrago, and that was where I took an L. It was super long game 1. I think in hindsight, I think I was in a losing scenario. I thought I might have been able to squeeze out a win. I think in hindsight, because it's always 2020, I should have just scooped halfway through, so I was not winning that, and just take it to game 2 and game 3. I think that definitely was a winnable match if I played like that, but instead I just doubled down on myself and I tried to just win that best of 1, and I just got completely burnt by it. So that wasn't a misplay in the game by chance, but I think it was a misplay as a player in not making that decision. My 4th round was against Regidrago. This might have been one of my favorite rounds for the day. I played against an opponent from Montenegro, I believe, and he might have been one of the coolest guys ever. I mean, it was a dream to play against him. I mean, he was such an excellent player, a phenomenal personality. Just cornerstone Ogerpon, and there was nothing else to it, man. I mean, I burnt him out of E-switches. Handheld Fan was clutch. I used Thornton one of the games. I don't think both. Radiant Jirachi was able to put up some numbers against him with Entrusted Wishes. I mean, my deck was decking that game, and it felt awesome. I felt honestly kind of bad because he was the coolest guy. It was awesome playing him. So yeah, I was able to be 2-2 at that point. So this is where the most interesting match, round 5, came in, and it was against Turbo Roaring Moon. My opponent did play Enhanced Hammer, which won. So that against Roaring Moon, I went win-loss, and then I will explain what happened in that 3rd match. So I won the first game because I was able to set up 2 Noivern EX, both with Mist Energy, before my opponent was able to get the E-Hammer or a double Gust out, so they were able to KO 1 Noivern with Mist, and then I was able to get a Thornton play to get the second Noivern on, I believe it was like Ogerpon on the bench or something, like whatever it was, I just attached the Mist Energy that turn and just boom, hey, here's Mist, here's Noivern, you either play another Enhanced Hammer or you don't. My opponent didn't, scooped, went to game 2. Game 2, I just got rolled over. I mean, I wasn't able to set up fast enough to even try to get another Noivern in play. So we go to a game 3, and game 3 took a long time. Took us 2 turns, and I could have tied the match. However, there was the new championship system. The ties were useless. We were 2-2. We had to win out to make day 2. So a tie or a loss obviously did not help either me or my opponent. My opponent, amazing person. I mean, it was such a funny match. We were laughing the whole time. It was a great time. It was very back and forth. Awesome person to talk to. It was truly a very fun match. But then it came down to this. It was in turns, time was just called, and I 100% could have drew it out. I didn't have Noivern in play, but I had Arceus V-Star and Jirachi in play, and I had Thornton in hand. So I was ready to rumble with Thornton and try to go out for that win. But I had 3 prize cards left. My opponent had 4 prize cards left. So it kind of just put me in the scenario where it's like, look, I could take a tie and just drag this match out and cheese out that last point. Or the decision I made was I just took the match slip. I just circled win on my opponent. Because I don't think I could have won, but I think I could have tied it out. I didn't have enough time to take 3 prize cards with 1 Noivern EX, even after Starbirth, so I was like, whatever. I'd rather give my opponent the tie and just knock myself out of day 2 guaranteed and have one of us live than take the tie and neither of us make day 2. So my friends made fun of me for that decision that I threw my own record and just gave it away. But I figured, you know what? I mean, hey, I'm here to have fun. I'm here for a good time. if that was how I was supposed to go out that day, that was a decision I was comfortable making in the moment. So, and my opponent was a very nice person. It's not like they were mean or angry or like calling a judge on me every 10 seconds. Like, we were laughing the whole time, and I'm like, you know what? If there's an opponent I'd want to give a win to and try to keep them in day 2 contention, I'm happy it was them. They definitely deserved the run at it. I'm pretty sure I saw their record, because you can see your opponent's record at the end of the day. They didn't make day 2. I think we had the same record. They might have lost the next round or the round after. But yeah, I mean, you know, I gave them the win, so I did take a loss there. In reality, I think if I was just fighting for every single point I could have got, yeah, I probably would have tied. Again, I had Thornton, and I had enough to get Noivern in play and just live 3 turns, no matter what they did. Like, I very confident I could have got the tie, but they deserved the win. I wanted one of us to try to move on. I didn't. I feel like most opponents would never do that to them, so I figured, you know what, there's no chance I'm going to get the tie here. I'm here to have fun, you know what, let's just give my opponent the victory. So I that's where one of my losses came from, and that's why I say I went 4-5, because with a little asterisk, that's why. Because I don't know what would have happened if I took the tie there. But, you know, that'll go down as not even a what if for me. Like, my record is final, I'm happy with it, but I guess it's a room up in the air because I made that decision. So that brings me into the next match, where I played this. Not saying all of my matches weren't fun and I didn't have a blast in all my matches, because I did. I had the time of my life in all of them. This match might have been my favorite out of all of them. I was playing against someone who went top 32 in seniors and was promoted to the Masters division. And this was his first tournament in the Masters division, because it was the first regional after Worlds. And he was playing Pidgeot Control. I don't know how to explain this to you. I was rooting for him the entire game. We played one match. That one match lasted 49 minutes and like 30 seconds. Like, we just finished and boom, time was called. I mean, it was down to the wire. And he was such a cool kid. He played his deck so well. Like, I was so proud of just how composed he was, how well he was doing. I don't know if that's like, oh, I'm talking down to him because I was proud of him, but I was just so happy to see just like, he still wasn't even old enough to be a Masters, but he got promoted, he was running with it, and he was playing so well, and it just made me so happy to see. And I was very happy to give him such a good match. He flipped, I think he played Silene 4 times, and I think 2 of them were double tails. And then the other 2 were just one heads. And I think, like, if he were here, he'd probably say that was the make or break moments. And while I do agree, I still think I could have came away with it. Obviously, I don't know what would have happened. But that was some very unfortunate luck for him. And I think just the fact that Cornerstone Ogerpon had Shred was all I was using to my advantage. I was like, hey, alright, you want to put in Mimic You, I'm going to Shred KO it. You want to put in Blood Moon or Saluna, I've still got an Arceus set up on the bench so I can 2-shot it. And Radiant Jirachi was terrifying this kid. I waited so long to put out Jirachi just because I wanted to see what his plays were. But Radiant Jirachi was a huge threat to him, because I will say, 49-minute, like 30-second-ish game, you don't understand how many turns are in a control deck, because most of my turns were just draw pass. Well, with Jirachi, those weren't draw passes, those were draws, double flips. If I flipped double heads, I was going to put him on the back burner so bad. So I did come away with that one. Seriously, he was such an awesome opponent. If you are watching this video, please let me know in the comments. I also invited him on the podcast because he was just the coolest guy, and I would love to just have him talk about Pidgeot Control and how difficult it was to play, what he would have changed. I mean, he was an awesome guy, knew so much about the game. Seriously, one of the coolest kids I've ever played against, and it's not fair to say he's a kid. He's in high school. He's doing awesome. He's not a kid anymore, but I mean, I felt old playing against him. You know what I mean? So he was an awesome guy. He seriously, he's going to do amazing in this game, and I hope he remembers me going forward, because he's going to just tear up the Masters division, and I can't wait to see him do it. I will always and forever be rooting for him, just like I was that game, and although I was rooting for him, I refused to give him the victory, so I also played as seriously as I could. That being said, I did legitimately want him to beat me, because I don't know, I feel like I'm always like that when I play someone as cool as him. I'm like, man, especially like with, you know, he's younger, promoted, top 32 of Worlds, I'm like, I want this kid to win. Can't give it to you, though. So I did walk away with that win. That took me into round 7, where I played against the worst thing I could have hit. It was Charizard EX, which is good, but Greninja EX. It was a hybrid between the two, at which he just fell back on Greninja EX, which solos this deck. It's an evolution Pokemon, so Noivern doesn't shut it down. It's a fighting Pokemon, so it one-shots Arceus, and it doesn't have an ability, so it goes through Ogerpon. So there was absolutely nothing I could do. That being said, I used this as my lunch break, but before I used it as my lunch break, I made sure that Radiant Jirachi took 2 kills, I believe. It was that match I took 2 kills against his Greninja EX, which was insane. Like, I legitimately took 4 prize cards that game. Radiant Jirachi was the GOAT. Just absolute menace that game. I took the prize cards, won the first match. No, I lost. I still lost the first match because after Jirachi was KO'd, and then I Thorntoned to get Jirachi back. I was like, whatever, I just want to flip double heads. KO'd another Pokemon. Off pure luck, and then I just scooped. I'm like, I don't care anymore. I have no more recovery. I haven't eaten up until this point. I was so hungry, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not beating a Greninja EX deck. Just take the win. I already didn't make day 2. I'm gonna go eat lunch. So I ate lunch. But my opponent there was so cool as well. It was an awesome deck to see. I actually want to make a video on Charizard EX and Greninja as a combo because he was lighting it up, man, and he was able to flow into both Pokemon, which worked very well. And I think honestly brings some light to Greninja EX and that type of build. So it was a lot of fun. Match number 8, second to last match of the night or day. I played against Miraidon, and I won the first game, and then I lost the second game just off, like, prime catcher bosses. Not much I could do. I didn't have the most perfect hand. I don't think I misplayed. I think I just got kind of overwhelmed, which is a bit of an issue with this deck. Like, this deck really does pop off and lock your opponent, but against the turbo decks, like, if you don't have enough Pokemon in play, you do kind of get overwhelmed, and without the perfect draw outs or Starbirth or stuff like that, like, it is very hard to recover from. So match number 2, very fair. Not much I could do. Just kind of got KO'd. Just like I locked him turn 2, match number 2, I got cooked. Match number 3, I led Noibat. I had 5 supporters in hand. I believe I had Arven, 2 Iono, and then like a Judge and a Boss or something. I don't know. I had like 5 supporters, Noibat, and an Energy in hand. So I just got donked, and that's it. There was nothing more to it. So if I didn't get overwhelmed in the second match of that game, I definitely got overwhelmed in the third because I had no way to get a second Pokemon. I think if I was able to get a second one, I forgot what my supporters were, but I was like, ooh, if I somehow don't get donked, I actually might be able to pull this through with one of the supporters I had in hand. I don't remember which, but I didn't. It was Miraidon. Of course, they took a donk on a 70 HP Noibat. Because all I needed was Raikou. He didn't even need hands. All he had to do was get 2 energy on Raikou and just boom, KO. So that hurt. But again, it was whatever. It happens. Sometimes you just get donked and there's nothing more to it. Round number 9, I went double win against another Miraidon because homie had played against 3 Noivern EXs. So he got to my table, super cool guy. Could tell he just had enough when, he sat down, he looked up, so I was like, yo, you good? And he's like, nah, dude. I just played against like 2 Noiverns, whatever. Or he said something, and I'm like, oh, you're not going to be happy. And he's like, no, don't tell me. And I'm like, dude, I'm playing Noivern. And he's like, no, I don't. He's like, I don't even want to play this. And I was like, do you want me to like show you I'm playing Noivern so I'm not just cheesing a win? And he's like, yeah. He's like, that's fair. Like, yeah, if you don't mind showing me, just whatever. He's like, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, unless you really want to play it through. And I'm like, dude, if you're that beat up by Noivern, I'm not going to force you into it. So I showed him my deck, and he's like, dude, you could even just sit behind Ogerpon if you don't get the Noivern out immediately. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm looking for Miraidons. And he's like, you know what? Let's just hang, talk for a few minutes. So we sat, talked for 10, 15 minutes. Awesome guy. Really wish I could have played him in other circumstances because he seemed like a very knowledgeable player. His deck was very well thought out. He also was prepared for many different things. So, yeah, I mean, he was just, it hurt not to play him, but I wasn't going to force him into it. He was sick of Noivern already playing Miraidon all day, so he just kind of gave me the win on that one. So that's kind of where my overall 4-5 record came from. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of great to just go in there, have some fun. I played against some awesome opponents. I hope I see them in the future. If you are watching any of these videos, please let me know. I'd love to invite so many of y'all on the podcast as guests and whatnot. So, if you're there and watching, just let me know, man. I mean, seriously, Baltimore Regionals was a blast. It was so much fun to play. I think the one thing that really did upset me was not upset me, but it did make it very different. And I was telling Happy about this too, obviously. Sorry, she just got up and walked a little closer to me to sit by my desk. What did hurt was the new championship system, where now ties were useless. You had to go 21 points instead of 19 to make day 2. So essentially, if you tied once, or if you were able to get, you needed 21 points, which was essentially 7 wins. If you tied twice, the minimum record you could get was 6-0-3, which was just undefeated at that point. So the amount of gentlemen's agreements that were just going on was insane. Like, people just making these gentlemen's agreements just because ties didn't do anything like they used to. Ties were essentially the equivalent of losses. And I just think that, like, that doesn't really feel right. It made it very, like, awkward in the sense that, like, we have a super competitive game on our hands, yet we're just making these, like, ratchet deals to cheese a win here, cheese a win there, because we have to. Like, that kind of takes away, I feel like, some of the integrity of the game. And I think sitting in that crowd and really feeling it out for the first, because this was the first regional where that was in effect, I kind of didn't like it. I honestly, safe to say, I hated it. Not because it affected my record too much, but like, every game I heard those decisions around me, and I'm like, wow, like, this sucks. I could see the stress on people's faces making those deals before their final match or whatever. Like, whoever has more prize cards will just give them the win. And I'm like, wow, this is not fun to watch. This is not fun to be a part of. Like, this I feel like kind of hurt, again, the integrity and competitive level of the game. I feel like we all love, especially if you're watching this video this far in, like, you know, we definitely have a love for the game and the competitive scene, and we want to take decks to the highest level. It really hurt. And when you play a deck like this, you know, it's like, you don't always take prize cards fast. Like, making those deals, I feel like my deck would be at such a disadvantage because I take prize cards so slow. So I could get rolled the first 2 prize cards, and I could have my win con set up, but if I made one of those deals, I might still have to circle loss because I wasn't able to take as many KOs with Covert Flight as I needed to because I got DT attached and I'm swinging for 50 a turn. It's like, man, this blows, dude. So I scared Happy hitting the cards I'm shuffling. I apologize, sweetie. So, you know, it was a bit of a weird environment. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. Not because of any one person's fault, more just the new championship series rules. It just, I don't know. Didn't have my vote. If it didn't before, it definitely doesn't now. You know what I mean? But I'm also not a highly competitive player in the sense where I don't go to a bunch of regionals. Financially, it's just very hard for me to make commitments like that, so I go to regionals that are realistic for me to drive to, or, you know, like, stay at my, like this one, I was able to just commute an hour and 15 minutes from my apartment to Baltimore, which made it a lot easier. I didn't have to pay for an Airbnb or a hotel. All my friends just stayed in my living room. You know what I mean? And we just woke up super early. Like, we left at like 5:45 on Saturday to get there to compete on time, and 2 of my friends didn't check in Friday, so they had to do that, so, you know, we had to leave super early. But yeah, it you know, it kind of hurt, and I feel like the point changes also making it top 125 in your region kind of take out, it just feels like it makes it so much harder for the degular person to make worlds, which used to be a very small chance, but a feasible chance to make it to worlds. Kind of just seemed impossible in this new format. And after playing through a regional, yeah, I don't know how you could go to like 2-3 regionals and possibly fight to make it. I don't know if you were able to do that beforehand, but I guess if you day 2'd like all 3, you might have been able to cross that threshold depending on how well you did at them. But now it's impossible, and I don't really like that. I kind of liked how Pokemon was a game where you could just pick up, and low-key, if you go to 2-3 regionals and do pretty well at all of them and make day 2, you actually might be able to make worlds. Now that's not nearly enough. You have to go to like all the regionals, maybe an IC or 2, as well as get all your cup points, which is obviously the easiest out of a lot of them because you can go to as many cups as you want, and just go to cups in your area, which is easy too. You know, I don't know. It's just, I think it's very difficult now, and it makes it very hard. But yeah, I mean, this was the list I was playing. I mean, I absolutely loved it. This will go down as one of my favorite deck set of all time. This is up there with Arceus, Tapu Koko, Flying Pikachu, which is my only day 2 appearance at the Pittsburgh Regionals. And hey, 1 for 4 at Regionals on day 2s. I'll take it. I'm pretty happy about it. I think that's pretty good. Sadly, I was not able to get Radiant Jirachi its first Limitless page because there wasn't one before Baltimore. I'm pretty sure it has one after Baltimore. I'm pretty sure there was one in day 2. I was really hoping I could get up there and give Radiant Jirachi its first Limitless page. I was not able to do it. I did fall short. I did go 4 and 5, but that doesn't mean I didn't have a blast with the deck. And like I said, this is going down as one of my all-time favorite decks I ever created. Like, obviously, there's decks I've played that I haven't created or I didn't play a large role in creating. This deck I created from scratch. Like, this went through so many different phases and testing things, and I just spent so long changing so many cards and overall list in it. Like, this started as an Arceus, Noivern, Vulpix V-Star deck, and it switched to Ogerpon, and then it switched back to Vulpix, and then it switched back to Ogerpon, and then I kind of just scrapped the whole trainer list and just redid it from scratch, and Capturing Aroma came to be, and I was like, this is awesome. So, like, this deck went through many trials and errors. I am very proud of myself for making this deck. I think with a different, obviously it's a heavy cope statement, but with the different matchup spread, with one I'm more predicted to see, especially because I am playing an anti-meta deck, I think I could have done a lot better. That being said, I just played the hands I was dealt, and I wouldn't have asked for a different day no matter what, just because I was able to meet so many amazing people and play so many fun matches. And regardless of not making day 2, I did love playing all the matches I did. There's not one match where I'm like, wow, I don't like this person. Wow, this is getting a little too toxic for me. Like, everyone I played was a dream to play against. And seriously, I'm happy I was given the opportunity to match with all of them because I had a ton of fun. So yeah, that's it for the list. Just some general channel updates. Wow, this is like weird to talk about. I got an affiliate code from TCG Player, which is sitting on, will be the right side of the screen and the bottom right this entire time. It's got my TCG Player link. So if you're going on TCG Player to order singles and you want to support the channel in a small way, you have to click that link. And if you order cards within 48 hours of clicking the link, it kind of just supports the channel and just gives a little shout out to me. So if you want to use the affiliate code, hey, go give it a shout. I think you get a percent. I'm not 100% sure how it works. This is the first time I've ever gotten the opportunity to do something like that, and I feel really awkward talking about it because I'm like, hey, go support me, go click on my link, and I don't know how to do that right because I feel weird saying stuff like that, but it's there. So thank you, TCG Player, for giving me that opportunity. If you haven't used TCG Player ever and you're getting into the card game, it's the website I use 24/7 to order pretty much all of my singles, to build different decks and stuff, and I recommend you go check it out. And if you are going to check it out, you might as well use my link anyways, because you're going to use it no matter what to get cards from your deck. So if you don't have another link to use, just keep on clicking my link and help give me a little bit of support. And then past that, enough yapping about that, I do have one more update for the channel. So I know I've been talking about this new schedule and just kind of finalizing how everything's going for me. Well, now that grad school has been more or less figured out and Baltimore Regionals has finished, my life is settling. I'm able to take a deep breath and just get back into the norm of things. I don't have any trips planned. I obviously have got school projects, but I'm able to work around those. I do think one of my specialties is time management, so I think that is something I can work through. That being said, the channel's still going to take a hit, and of course I've told so many people, I just want to reiterate it again, I'm not going to be able to do daily uploads like I did over the summer. Over the summer I was just working full-time, and that was it, so I was able to do videos every day after work. I'm in grad school, I'm a full-time grad student, I'm working a full-time job, and I'm trying to run this channel, like those, and I, like, I've got stuff outside of those commitments, like minor like relationships to uphold, like with my family, my friends, like my, go see my girlfriend who's graduating from our undergrad this year. Seriously, congrats to your age. I'm so proud of you for everything you're doing. But yeah, like there's other things I gotta just do in my life, so I'm not going to be able to upload daily, and I apologize. That being said, I did kind of create a rough schedule, and it will change semester by semester based on what nights I have classes, but essentially, I record my videos the night before and then post them the next day. If I have class during the night, I obviously won't be able to record. it's just not feasible for me. So that's gonna be 2 to 3 nights a week. I just won't be able to get a recording in, and I apologize. So my upload goal is to get anywhere between 2 to 4 uploads a week. There are some weeks, and I've looked at my overall schedule with, my different projects, my exams, heavy reading weeks and stuff like that. There are going to be weeks where that's going to fall down to 2 just because I've got a lot of stuff I've got like 3 different projects due in 1 week. I'm just going to stick to 2 and I'm going to get my work done. And then there's other weeks where it's like, oh man, I've only got to read 4 chapters this week. That's honestly not that bad because I enjoy reading this type of stuff. I mean, hell, I'm in grad school for it. I really do enjoy reading this stuff, so it's not the end of the world. I do it before I go to bed and enjoy it. I might get 4 or even 5 videos out that week. All things considered, work hopefully goes okay, and I'm not slammed with extra work. So that's kind of what I mean, where it's like 2 to 4 is my goal, and I think that's what I'll be able to do going forward, and not burn myself out in any one area of my life, as well as make sure the channel is still just being used. Like, I love this channel, I love this community, I'm so happy I started this. It's been something I was very scared to do at first, and I still get anxiety about, because it's weird recording myself, but I'm very happy I made the decision to do it. So I'd like to thank all of you for watching it and making it this far in the video, just giving me whatever support you do. If you're new to the channel and this is the first time you're hearing and seeing from me, well, thank you for listening to me yap for 46 minutes. I mean, that's impressive, because who wants to listen to me yap? But I mean, hey, if you want to look at my other videos and be a part of the community, I'd love to have you. I seriously am just so happy to be doing this and being here building this community with you guys. And I wish I could upload videos 7 days a week like I did over the summer, but at least during semester, that's just impossible. Honestly, during winter and summer breaks, I probably will go back to uploading like 5 to 7 times a week, just because I have so much fun doing this. But when I'm in school, that is not possible for me, and I'm so sorry. And I know 2 videos a week is just so underwhelming. Trust me, I wish more than any one of you watching I could do more. But I think at least while I'm in the heavy class part of school, when I'm in like my practicals and stuff, like my residency and all that, that might change, and I might actually be able to upload a little more, because my classes just become essentially work during the day, or at night, in which case I could record during the day. It doesn't matter. I actually might be able to upload more then. But at least for now, while I'm in the like class portion of my graduate school and everything, it's hard for me to just balance all of that. So there are going to be weeks where my minimum, I'm going to get 2 videos out a week. That is always my goal. I will try to always have a minimum of 2. But sometimes that's going to be the best I could do. And I will try to communicate those weeks as they come up. And I know they're happening, but like, I just ask for your patience and forgiveness with stuff like that. I will always try to get as much content out as possible. And I also hope people enjoy the Battle VIPs podcast. If I could be 100% honest, because I'm super far into this video and I don't know, if many people are watching up until this point, so I feel like if you are, you don't mind me saying stuff like this. The Battle VIPs podcast is honestly my favorite series on this channel to make. I have so much fun doing it. And I guess, I mean, it's weird to say it's like the least popular, but by just the sheer amount of views, it's by a long shot the least popular. And I'd love to just, I don't know if people like that stuff or not. I love it. I love making it, so I want to keep shouting it out, and maybe it's someone else's cup of tea. And maybe if you made it this far in the video, maybe that podcast is awesome for you. And, it's definitely something you want to see. So this might be like the hidden episode of the Battle VIPs podcast. I might put it in the Battle VIPs podcast channel or category on my channel, but it's not. It's just a regional update. So yeah, that's pretty much a big thing. Go support the podcast. Go use that TCG player code. That is that way. My camera's flipped. Obviously, it's over there. Go click on it. Go use that link. And with that being said, I hope you guys, if there's any recommendations for me, send them in the Discord. Send them in the comments down below on like what videos to make, what decks to make, just what you want to see out of the channel, directions you might want me to take. Let me know if you like the podcast. Let me know if there's something you want to see on the podcast. I got you. And yeah, I mean, that was much longer than I thought this video would be. I seriously hope you guys enjoyed it. I think I kind of needed this little channel vent session, so thank you for listening this far. This felt awesome to do. So again, thank you. I appreciate all of you, yes, you, so much. So just thanks for all your support. Seriously, I am very thankful for all of you. So, hey, with that being said, stay epic. Peace.